am going to talk very, very briefly about the team. So to give you a bit of a very quick team introduction. So we are part of the wider engagement, marketing and communications team. So you've got the engagement team, and then we've got also the wider team handle the marketing communications. So a lot of the emails and the website and the newsletters, and that is a very basic understanding of what the wider team do. But part of the employer engagement team, so there's me, and then there are the 4 engagement advisors. We've got Jess, Judith, Connor and Maisie. So between the 4 of them, we manage all the employer interactions across 18 different funds across local government, police and fire. So some of you here will be part of the LG schemes, some of you will be police and fire. And at last stand, we have 1,300 active employers. So what that means by active employers is employers who have active members who are actively contributing to the scheme. So there are a lot more of you than there are of us, but we do hope to manage those relationships well. And within those 1,300 active employers, we have on last count about 600,000 roughly, sorry, I couldn't get the numbers out there, members across all statuses. So whether that's active members who are paying into their pension, deferred members, so people who aren't paying in but who haven't yet taken their pension, and then pensioners as well, so people who are in receipt of their pension. What the team do is we support employers with Teams calls, virtual training sessions, we do phone calls and emails as well. So if you've reached out to the engagement team, you've probably spoken to one of the guys, whether that be on a Teams call, a phone call or an email. So we do lots of online training, which hopefully some or all of you have attended. So we do regular sessions each month. We cover things about absence and ill health, scheme leavers, the UPM employer portal, and so we are the ones who deliver those. We will soon start thinking about what training sessions we are going to be delivering in 24-25. Yes, we're already talking about those years. So when you do get your feedback form, there will be a question there about any training that you think would be useful. So if you have any thoughts about any training that you think we could deliver, please do put that in the feedback form, and you never know, it may become one of our sessions next year, because we want to make sure that we are delivering the right training for you. You're the one who needs it, so and it's for you, so we want to make sure we are delivering useful training. So that's all from me. I'm going to hand over to Judith now. Let me
sharing my screen. Can you all see that? Yeah.
Yeah, we've got that, Judith.
Thank you. So we're just going to take a brief look today at some of the employer responsibilities. And these are basically based on a lot of questions that we often see come up from employers, but it's also just to give you a reminder of some processes and regulations that you should be keeping your eye on or reviewing, etc., etc. We do, as Emily said, a more comprehensive session, which is a bit longer than what I'm going to, but I'm just going to sort of cover 3 areas that come up a lot. Joiners and leavers, we're going to look at employer discretions and informing us if you change payroll provider, what your responsibilities are, what you need to give to us, and etc. So first, we're going to look at notifying LPPA of joiners. Firstly, you must inform us of joiners even if they opt out within 3 months and are refunded through payroll. If they specify no date or a date earlier than they give the notice, they stop being an active member at the end of the payment period in which the notice was given. That's a question that often comes up to our mailbox. So I just want to clarify that. And there's a couple of ways that you can inform us of a new joiner. First, you can submit them on the monthly return. And the second way is you can submit them via the UPM portal, either or. You'll not, if you submit them on the monthly data return, you'll not need to submit a joiner form on the UPM portal. What happens is you submit it on the form, you enter them on the form on the data return. The data team will set up what's called a skeleton record with the information that you provided. What you need to bear in mind is when you're completing that data return, that you're checking all the relevant columns for a new joiner are filled in and completed, because this is often what triggers missing member query or missing member information query on the monthly return. And that comes into your feed, into your work feed, and it doesn't mean, I know some people are confused sometimes, it doesn't mean that the member is missing, it just means that we still require some information from you on that member. So all you have to do is complete the missing information form that when you click on it in the work feed and just submit it back to LPPA. And then based on that information that you provide, we'll then send the member a welcome pack. So I know for some of you, sometimes you see that there's seems to be a gap between when you've submitted a joiner and members haven't received their welcome pack. You need to check if there's a query against that member, because if there is, that's probably why they haven't received it yet, because we're still waiting for some more information. The other option is you can just submit them on the portal, UPM portal, and then you need to obviously remember that once you've submitted them on the portal, you need to, when you put them on the next data return, the subsequent data return, they're just on there as a normal member. You don't put them back on there as a joiner, because that has resulted in us sometimes creating duplicate records for members, and obviously that can cause a lot of confusion. So as I said before, make sure that when you're putting them on the data return, that you check all the relevant columns are completed, and then you're not likely to get these missing member information queries. So unlike the joiner notification, for a leaver, even though you flag them on the data return, you must also submit a leaver on the portal. And the reason for this is there's different types of leavers which requires specific information that isn't captured on the data return. And you'll see on the data return, you don't have questions about best of the last 3 years, etc. So when you submit the leaver form via the portal, depending on what you select as the reason for leaving, this directs the form, the electronic form, to the correct team, the correct admin team, for them to start processing. So if you put them, when you put them on the data return, do your leaver form as well. Another thing that sometimes causes issues is payroll providers, what to do if you're changing your payroll provider or if you outsource your payroll. It's important that you know exactly, first of all, what your responsibilities are and what your payroll provider is doing. We do on some occasions have employers asking us what function their payroll provider should be doing. Obviously, we don't have a say in that. That will depend on the contract that you have with the provider. So I think it tends to happen when there's a turnover or a high turnover of staff, and sometimes there might not be written guidance for whoever's coming in, and so they end up contacting us to ask what their payroll provider should be doing. So it is your responsibility to make sure that you know who's doing what. Sometimes the payroll provider is doing everything. Sometimes it's split, and employers might do joiners, leavers, and the payroll provider just does a data return. But regardless of who submits information to LPPA, you or your payroll provider, it is the employer's responsibility to ensure that it's submitted on time and that the information is accurate. With the data return as well, especially for larger employers, it can take a while for the data team to process the file. But regardless of size, if there's data mismatches, missing data, then it will result in the data team pending the process while the mismatch is being queried. So sometimes you might find that it's taken ages for your file to be processed. That usually is because there's some queries that the data team are looking into. So they've pended your file and they are looking into it first. And sometimes that might result in a query in your work feed. Sometimes it might not if they're able to resolve it themselves. So just bear that in mind if your file is taking a while to be processed. And it's important to remember as well that if we are receiving inaccurate data from the payroll provider, or we're not able to get sort of timely responses from them, we will contact the employer to provide that data, and we will expect the employer, because it's your data essentially, to help us with gathering that information. It's important that if you do change your payroll provider, that you let LPPA know. We have a page on our website with the title employers who outsource their payroll. You just go onto the website, download the forms that you need, fill in the documents and return it to the engagement team mailbox, and we'll forward it to the relevant team. It's also important that if you are changing payroll provider, that you request that we remove access from the previous payroll staff to the UPM portal. That sometimes gets forgotten. You send us a list of who needs to be removed. You can send that to the engagement mailbox, and a list of who needs to be put on. There is a form that you can fill out, which is available on our website. If you can't find it, that's fine. Engagement, you can drop engagement a line and we'll send it to you. And when you do fill out that form, it's important also that you remember to include your fund name and your 5-digit employer code in that communication. Particularly if you're a school, we have lots of schools that have the same names but in different funds, so it can take a while if we've just got the name of a school, for instance, but not the 5-digit employer code. It can take a while for us to identify who it is that you are. So just make sure that you're filling out that form with the 5-digit employer code and the fund that you are in, and that will help us to get that done quite quickly for you. So another area that comes up quite frequently is employer discretions. So we'll take a quick look at that. So what are employer discretions? Basically, the LGPS allows some scheme flexibility for both employers and members, and in particular gives employers greater scope for some local decision making. For the discretions, each scheme employer must formulate their policy concerning the exercise of their functions. In an example, the matter of awarding additional pension to a member, and in this case, in relation to an active member or a member who was dismissed by reason of a redundancy or business efficiency, or whose employment was terminated by mutual consent on grounds of business efficiency. In operating early retirement, whether to waive any actuarial reductions for a member, voluntarily drawing their benefits before normal pension age, other than on the grounds of flexible retirement, and then flexible retirement provisions, whether all or some payments of benefits can be paid, or waiving actuarial reductions. Those are just some of what is referred to as mandatory discretions. In addition to these, there's many other areas where discretionary policy decisions can be made by employers, but and they can be found on the LGPS guidance, which I think Emily may be sending in the pack, I'm not sure. But the principal rule for the mandatory discretions is that the appropriate party must formulate, publish, and keep such policies under review. Keeping them under review will help to avoid the risk of legal challenge if they've not been reviewed for many years and a member queries some decision that you've made. If you don't have discretions policies in place, your fund has to publish their discretions policies, and usually, from what I've seen, all the funds publish it on their website. So apart from the guidance on what discretions are, which is provided on the employer section of our website, you could refer to your fund's example just to see how it's laid out, because a lot of people ask, if we've got a template. We don't have a template, but you can look at your funds if you're unsure of how to lay it out, and refer to that. And then once you've written your policies, you must send a copy to your fund. So the other thing that I just wanted to sort of clarify is that there's many discretions that an employer has. There is some guidance on the LGPS website. It breaks down what the mandatory discretions are. They're all highlighted in a sort of orange color. If you haven't got them in place, I would recommend that you go to the LGPS website, have a look at what the discretions are, check with your HR department that they have actually got them in place, and if not, it's a good idea to formulate them. But the document basically breaks out what all the discretions are. One that we get a lot is whether someone can take flexible retirement. That is an employer discretion. It's not something that we can basically make a decision on. So that brings us to the end of my session. I hope that wasn't too fast for you, but as I said, we do actually have a longer session that is run pretty much once a week. Once a month, I think, Emily. So if you want to come on the longer session, you can come on the longer session. I do cover more things like opting out and what you should do if someone's opting out, and also the appeals process, which is something that often comes up with ill health, and we can give you some guidance on that area of the scheme. Thank you. Pass over to Jess.
Hello, everybody. I'm just going to share my screen with you because I'm adding to your presentation viewings during this session. Just make sure everybody should be able to see that. I think I'll just move you all over here as well. Oh, if I can. No, minimize you then. Okie dokie. If anyone can't see that, just shout up for me, but I'll make a start on my section. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for still being with us at this point. For those of you who don't know me, or if you can't see my background, my name is Jessica and I work as an engagement officer here on the engagement team at LPPA. I've been in the role for just over a year, and my section today is going to be a short 5 to 10-minute section covering both the current retirement process and then providing you with an update on early retirement notification. If you do have any questions, please hang on to them and we'd be happy to answer any within the Q&A section at the end of today's forum. I'm just going to start off by running through, for those of you who don't fully know, what the 5 steps are to the current retirement process, and basically just giving you a bit more information about each step. Now, it might be information that you all already know, you might only know part of it, so we felt that it was important just to run through it with you so you're all clear on what the actual retirement process is. Just as a disclaimer for you all as well, we are in the process of currently updating both our member and our employer retirement pages on our LPPA Pensions website. And that's going to be able to provide you and our members with a clear and concise overview of the retirement process. So it will be popped on there. And it's just going to reiterate what I'm going to go through with you in this session. So as you can see, the first step for the retirement process is that the member notifies you as their employer or payroll provider that they wish to retire. This could be via them handing in their notice, or if you're liaising with the member to come to an agreement. So for example, in cases of redundancy, flexible retirement, or if members just come to the end of their contract. Now, once the member has notified you, you've had that conversation. The second step, Apologies, got a bit click happy there. The second step is that you as the employer would need to submit a web leaver form through the UPM employer portal. We will be touching more on the form later on in this section, but I'll just move on to step 3, because as you can see that once you have submitted a web leaver form to us at LPPA, you can see that our retirement team would then, using that information from the web leaver form, calculate and post out the members' retirement options. Now, the documents that are posted out to the member would usually include a breakdown of their pension, calculation information, and all of the forms that the member would need to return, complete and return to us. Now, moving on to the next slide, once the member has received their retirement figures and forms, they would need to complete all of the retirement forms, choosing what pension payment options they actually want, and then they would return it to us together with a valid form of ID. They can return it via our member contact form, they can email, or they can post it. We do have a postal address. Now, just to give you a bit of background information, the member would complete the forms, but in terms of the ID documents that we would require, they can be, and the usual documents we receive are birth certificate or passport. But please bear in mind, if you do have any members querying retirement, that if we receive a piece of ID and it's in a different name to what's on our pension record and on the member's bank details they've provided, then additional ID documentation may be required. So I'll just give you an example of this. If a member submits a birth certificate in their maiden name, but we have their married name, then they might just need to provide their marriage certificate or even a divorce decree just to verify their married name. Now, the last step, step 5 on the bottom of the slide, this is where when the member has returned their forms and ID, if they've been reviewed and accepted by LPPA, we will then process the retirement options and we'll process what the member has chosen and put the pension into payment. We will then send the member a payment confirmation letter and it will just confirm their choices and their pension payment dates. Now, I just want to take this opportunity just in the first part, at the end of the first part, to promote our member training sessions. Now, there are 2 member training sessions that we host, as you can see on the right side of the slide. One of them being Making Sense of Retirement, which for any members that are considering retirement and would like more information, they're more than welcome to join. Now, to access the member training sessions, if you do have any members inquiring about it, they can go to the members section of our LPPA Pensions website, and there is a specific section for member training. As you can see, I've popped it on the slide for you. Now, these sessions, as you can see also from the ticks on the slide, they are run once a month for members and they are completely free for members to join. The information after the session is also sent to the members in case they need to refer to it afterwards, but mainly for many members, it's an opportunity for them to ask us any questions that they have about retirement in general or about our retirement processes. Now, you as employers and payroll providers are, of course, welcome as both as members yourselves, or if you would like to first see the session and see if it's suitable to signpost to your employees and get a feel for what kind of questions people are asking us. So I thought it was worth a mention just in this end of this first section before I move on to the second section, for you, just to reiterate that we do offer member training sessions. So this is my second and last section, and I'm going to cover the web leaver form and early retirement notification with you. So currently, when you have a leaver, as Judith has just touched on previously, the process is that you need to log into the UPM employer portal and submit a web leaver form to us. Now you can see on the slide that once you log into the UPM employer portal, you'll go straight to your dashboard, which is what this is showing, or your home screen. And then in order to submit the web leaver form to us, you would click, and I've highlighted it here for you, on the Start a Process tile, as this is where all of the online forms are kept that you can submit through this portal. Now, once you've clicked on the Starter Process tile, you will be presented with the options you can see on the left of the slide. So you'd click into, again, I've highlighted it, the Employee Forms Hub option. And then you would select from the bottom, it's highlighted again, the web leaver form, which will then take you to the start of the form. And one of the first questions it does ask you is just to let us know which member this form is, you're submitting this form for. So it'll ask for the member's name or national insurance number, and you can search for the member. Now, when you're completing that form, I've highlighted on the right side of the slide, and I'll just read out this information that you currently need to include on the web leaver form, because there are a couple of pages to the form. So the information that you'll need to provide to us on this form is the leaving date and reason, the hours information, employee contribution information, your care pay, your final pay or final salary details. You'd need to let us know if the member has had any drops in pay. And then there's a couple of boxes for any additional information that you might want to disclose or that you need to tell us, or if there's any additional documents that you wish to upload. And then when you've completed and filled that all in, you'd simply just submit the form to us at LPPA so that we can start processing that form that you have submitted. Now, if you need any assistance with the definition or with calculating final pay or care pay, we do run a free employer training session. Now we host, as Judith has said, we host a couple of training sessions. Again, they are free to join, but the Scheme Essentials session that we run is designed to cover how to calculate care and final salary or final pay details. So previously, the advice has been that a web leaver form is to be submitted when you know what the member's final pay details are going to be, which for many of you means that waiting until you've run the payroll or until the member has left their role already. However, this is the last slide of my section, and I'm hoping you will agree that we're ending on a positive note of this section by discussing the early retirement notification. So as my colleague Aidan, who's presenting next, will highlight, there are several ways that we collect feedback. So from yourselves as employers, we look at member satisfaction scores and general training session feedback. So I'm thrilled to be advising you that we are listening to all of this feedback and we are implementing early retirement notification on the back of this. So ultimately, our aim is that we can work together to provide the best service and experience for our members. And a lot of feedback that we've received has reported that the current retirement process and when the web leaver form was being submitted was in some cases causing delays in processing a member's pension. Now, we're committed to rectifying this, and as I've said, take on board all of your feedback and suggestions. And we'd now we would ask you as employers and payroll providers to now notify us as soon as you receive notification that a member is going to be leaving their role. So as soon as you know that a member is going to be leaving the role, you can now complete a web leaver form that little bit sooner. So get your forms in early so it doesn't cause any delays for the member. And we understand and appreciate that in a small number of cases, things may change, and we are looking into an easy way for you to let us know. Now, there will be further communication sent out about this to all of you, but as soon as you can see on the slide, the process of early retirement notification will ultimately reduce retirement delays, and it allows us to provide members with their retirement options a little bit earlier so we can process it for them. Now, that brings me to the end of my section. So thank you everyone so much for your time and attention. I'm going to unshare my screen, and then I'm just going to pass you on to my colleague Aidan, and Aidan is going to cover with you the communications update. So thanks again.